workshops in this topic. So thank you very much for joining us today. Also with us today, we have Sura, who graduated from the University of Lagos with a BSc in Civil Engineering and is also registered as a corporate member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers Council of Regulation of Engineering, with over 17 years in the public sector, rising to directorate rank. Sura has reinvented herself and carved a niche for herself in the practice of family life engineering and behavioral therapy. She's backed professional qualifications in human systems and certified as a master NLP practitioner, trained social sector manager, emotional intelligence and anger management coach, certified results coach, mental health first aid practitioner, and a purpose and potential discovery specialist, a lover for learning, making impact, traveling, and meeting people. Sura consults and facilitates trainings and workshops for individuals, families, schools, and other groups on influencing behavioral change that fosters harmony, well-being, and stronger relationships through process development or direct personal interventions and solutions. Wow, there's a lot. Well, thank you for being here with us today. In addition to all this, she also helps busy parents overcome mindset blocks, unlearn unhealthy patterns, and start simple, fast daily practices that lead them to create, live, thrive, and transform their kids in that connected and cooperative family life they've always dreamt about. She's also very passionate about families, children, and education. She's an author, and the title of the book is How to Raise Better Behaved Children. She's a creator, parental influence mastery director at the Guided Beginnings School and Islamia, Abuja, Nigeria. She's a lead coach at Parents First Academy and creative host of Discovery View and Quran Village holiday programs. She's married to her greatest cheerleader, Adewale Suleiman, and blessed with 3 great sons and 3 awesome daughters. This has clocked her extensive on-the-job hours as a chauffeur, negotiator, short order cook, scheduler extraordinary, validator per excellence, among other skills. She currently resides in Abuja, Nigeria, and has worked with families in almost all the continents. You can follow her on Instagram and Facebook at Guided Beginnings. Guided Beginnings. I'm saying that again, Guided Beginnings. Sura, you're sure to go from burnout to brilliant in your daily living. So thank you very much for joining us in this wonderful session today. So before we start the lecture today, the session, I think we have a poll to share. I would like the participants to please partake in that poll. Do we have a poll, please? Okay, thank you very much. I know you're sharing your screen now, but the poll. Okay, I think it's on a.
Oh, sorry, I was just typing the code.
Okay, that's the website, right? So if you please go to www.menti.com and put in that code, and then you'll be able to, take the poll. And we have a screen here showing, the percentage of those that has taken the poll. And so the question is, do you find it easy to resolve conflicts at home? Please, we encourage you all to please go to the website and take the poll. I'm going to do that myself. So we're just going to give ourselves a few minutes to go to the poll. The code is 434666899. Okay, I've just finished taking my poll there. Please, I hope you all have done the same. So I think we're going to move past this poll. Now I'd like to say a big welcome to the first attendees to the Michael session. We hope you come back after this session, you come back for more sessions, join our clubhouse on Saturdays, and also become a member, inshallah. So now we're going to start with the question session. So please, our speakers, we have the first question. I'm going to start with Mr. Idris Kamisa. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. So the first question, we can see the poll there. So we're going to go to the first question, which says, how do we ensure that conflict, which is often inevitable in the home, does not traumatize children?
You know, I have an issue, right? My issue is this, that conflict is not inevitable. Disagreement is inevitable. And when disagreement is ignored, there are no discussion, then it leads to conflict. In fact, children need to grow up in a home. They need to grow up in a home, inshallah, where they will be able to see the mom and dad disagreeing with each other without being disagreeable. Because in the end, it'll be a very, very boring home when you find that parents agree on everything. But the critical part of that disagreement, it mustn't be done at the expense of doing the right things for the children. It's not about, I can disagree with you without undermining your authority. In fact, one of the 4 reasons for divorce globally is the fact when the mother and father have a divergent philosophy regarding the child. But anyway, let's look at your question again, right? The impact it has on children, if you're talking about conflict in your own words, it has a profound, profound impact. It has such an impact that it will affect the child for the rest of its life unless there is intervention. There is a condition the psychologists call a post-traumatic stress disorder. It is basically about those issues that you've been through in your life, in which you had no closure, in which you never spoke about it, and you have no idea that sometimes you can consciously remember a traumatic incident at home. Sometimes you may not remember, but it has a profound impact on your subconscious. And as a result, it colors the way you look at the world. For example, there are some individuals who, no matter what the day is like, they will complain. There are those individuals who are eternal optimists. There are others that are pessimists. There are others who are suspicious. There are others who have difficulty in any kind of relationship. They always blame others. And often if you look deep down, you will be able to identify that this has emanated from the childhood experiences. Now, it is, I don't want to appear to be a prophet of doom and to say, well, you know what, finish, this is it. But the whole thing is this, that parents need to recognize that children learn through their eyes, they soak in the experiences. So when there is conflicts, regular conflicts at home, you are really traumatizing them. And I think it's important that either they get professional help or help from some individual, because psychologists have said revealing is healing, revealing is cathartic. And it's important to speak about that. So the home, when you look at the word title home, is supposed to be a safe haven, a sanctuary. It's a place in which you can be yourself without people chastising you. You're away from the frenetic, stressful world of business, the traffic, the challenges. When you're coming home, you're a place to unwind, where people accept you warts and all. But when you find that you come home to a stressful environment, this can exacerbate the conflict, or it could add the conflict. I can't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry about that. I said thank you very much for that wonderful explanation. Take home there is that we need to create environments where people are accepted and have a safe haven to explain themselves. So we'll have to call on Mrs. Sura Yinka Ogunfemi, please. Would like your perception as regards the question, how do we ensure that conflict, which is often inevitable in the home, does not traumatize children?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning. Yeah, and nice to have you here, our father and brother Idris Kamisa, and every other person on the call. Yes, I think her father and brother has actually said a lot of things about this, and I'll just add that, you know, conflicts are actually inevitable, like he rightly pointed out. And the way to go about it so that the children in the home are not traumatized are pretty, will I say obvious, but most of the time in the heat of the moment, we may forget about this. For instance, if I go back to the Sirah, Professor Sam said something. He said, when you're angry, so that means that recognize that there's a place for anger, there's a place for disagreement, there's a place for all those negative emotions that could result in conflict, which on one side is good for children to experience in their upbringing. And the downside is when those conflicts are not resolved in a way that is empowering to the children. And that's where the problem is, because in real life is that out there in the world, there'll always be conflict. So what we want to do is to be a model of conflict management, conflict resolution in our homes, such that when our children go out there and they find themselves in conflict situations, be it in the classroom, in the playground, or later on in their bedrooms or the boardroom in future, they have like a blueprint of how to go about it. And the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, who is the best model of all time, has said, if you're angry, if you're standing, what should you do? You should sit. If you're sitting down, lie down. If you're lying down, let up and make down. You know, we all are familiar with that narration. Now, what it means is that there is a need for us to change our physiology when we are in a place of anger or when there's a place of disagreement, so that it doesn't escalate, and such things will help us to de-escalate the situation. So basically what parents need to do is be a model of this for their children. And the place for this is actually, you know, before the event. These are some of the things we need to have talked about in every relationship. So okay, so yeah, when we disagree on issues, how do we want to go about it so that, you know, we can actually always be a team at all times, be together, you know, present a common front at all times. So I'd like to say that one of the first things we need to do is to focus on being effective and not necessarily who is right or who is wrong. So in the heat of the moment, it's actually difficult to, no matter how good your ideas are, it's extremely difficult to shove it down the throat of the other person because, hey, emotions are high here. So one of the things you may want to do is actually to leave the situation until there is calm. And this, the onus is on everyone. Everyone in that situation is actually responsible to take that lead, you know. This is where maturity comes in place, and whoever is able to take the lead. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said the stronger person is not the one with the most muscle, but the stronger person is one who, when is fixed with conflict, is able to restrain his anger, right? So how do you restrain this anger? Are we saying just bury it and trash it so that it's never spoken about? When we do this, all the things Brother Idris spoke about will happen in future. you know. But what we want to do is to find a place of safety such that when emotions are lower, we can come back and, you know, be able to look more objectively at the issue at hand and have a way forward about it, you know. So it's all about skipping the blame game, being in that moment and being able to focus on, okay, what are we trying to achieve here? Always remember that as a couple, it's not my opinion against your opinion. It is our opinion together collectively against the issue, the problem at hand. So how do you want to go about resolving it? And we need to talk about this, like I said beforehand. So we should have a model of conflict resolution. Okay, so when I'm angry, I say that I'm angry. Okay, the best is for me to. So when I walk out, it's not like I'm being rude or disrespectful. This is me trying to, you know, center back in and then think through the procedure so that when we're calmer, we can actually address the issue. And it's good when children when we model this in the presence of our children. So even when they have conflicts within themselves, someone can easily walk away, because as long as both of you are there, you're both responsible for whatever the conflict generates into, irrespective of who started it or who was right or wrong in the first place. And more importantly, we need to make this conflict moments teachable moments, you know. So what are we learning about ourselves, our opinions to life, our experiences, how is our upbringing coming into all of this? So the place for the thing is on the parents to actually think, put it at the front and have a model of resolving conflict such that the children are not in the house seeing the parents, you know,
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay. Are
I
you
like to
done?
add, could
Okay.
I
yeah.
add to, okay, have you finished, my beloved sister? Surara, have you finished?
I believe so.
Okay, right. You know, Allah bless her that you've got her participating, and it reminds me of a number of points. One of the critical things, and I see that it's part of her beautiful CV that you read a little while ago about emotional intelligence. Now, it is natural to experience anger, but in the end, how is it that you display it? What is it that you say? How you go about saying things? A critical thing is this, that you at any given time have to be self-aware. If you know that you are very upset and agitated, you are going to say things that are going to be demeaning and very, very damaging. And you're going to impact on the person for a long time. So it's important that we understand that in anger, you've got to be also self-disciplined and vigilant. Make sure you do not articulate things that can be problematic. Now, I'll give you two examples in the life of Nabi Sallallahu. There are many, many examples, right? The one is the time when our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam buried his son Ibrahim Alayhi Salam. And the Sahaba were quite surprised that our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was very, very emotional. So he responded by saying that the eyes weep and the heart grieves, but the tongue, look at it, the tongue will not say anything that is displeasing to Allah. Just how beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? That's one incident. The other incident is this. You see, at any given time, we are experiencing an emotion. Many of us don't even know that. You're either sad, glad, mad, or you're terrified. And there are subsidiary emotions that go with it also. But the important aspect is the following. For example, there is this one incident when there was an old man, I think a very old man, offered Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam a bunch of grapes. See how beautiful is this incident. And so Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam took a grape, he ate it, then he took the second grape and he finished the whole bunch. And the Sahaba sitting around him realized that this was not characteristic of him, because he used to share with them. And the old man was so satisfied. Can you imagine how the satisfaction he had to see the beloved Prophet eating those grapes, and he went away. Now, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to them, I'm sure you are surprised, but let me tell you why I did what I did. When I took the first grape, it was sour and bitter. I was afraid that if I gave it to you, you might have shown your displeasure. Look at how beautiful is that. And you would have hurt his feelings. So feelings are a very critical part of conflict, because when children grow up in a home, when there is anger, animosity, bitterness, demeaning, unbeknown to many of us, that many of them cry themselves to sleep and say, Ya Allah, why was I born in this household? So it's very, very important for us to understand that. So it is facile to say, oh, you know what, I'm so glad I told her whatever I want to tell. I told her and everything else, but the damage you have done is irreparable. Jazakumullah.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much for that. We're going to go to the next question, which says, how can parents foster peace and unity among their children to an extent in which sibling rivalry is eliminated? So we're moving on from conflict now in general, and we're going down to sibling rivalry among the children. How can parents foster peace and unity among the children?
Okay.
So,
okay. Do you want me to respond, or sister can respond?
Yeah. Okay. Sister Surah, please,
she can start. Give my beloved sister a chance also, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, we all know that sibling rivalry is something that.
Assalamu alaikum.
I can't hear her.
Okay, can you
Yeah, I can't hear her either.
Oh, wow. Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you. And I can't see your. Okay, yeah, you are now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. I can't hear you.
My mic is on. What's going on?
I can't hear you. Can you? I can't hear you.
Oh, she's on mute.
Oh, you're on mute. Let me see. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right.
We can't see, I can't hear you still.
Okay. So you want me to start then?
Sorry, Samaiko, do you have an earpiece or something added?
Okay, could I continue then?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, right. Yeah, you see, the whole thing is that we need to understand, some people argue that sibling rivalry is a natural phenomena. But the critical aspect is, as parents, how do you deal with that? One of the recurring issues in any family is the fact that some children believe the parents have favorites. And therefore I say, you must not treat your children with equality, but with equity, because the needs of each one is specific and is different. The other thing that I want to mention is the fact that sometimes this might surprise many people, but something worth thinking about, that parenting is not so much your relationship with your child, but your relationship with your spouse. And if that relationship is harmonious, pleasant, where there is social etiquette, where there is kindness, where there is respect for each other, and where there is no shouting and so on and so forth, then children in that particular home would respond accordingly. If you are going to scream, they will also learn to scream. Now, I'll give you an example. Some years ago, it's not about name dropping, but I think I'll mention, I was in London doing a program on parenting, and I mentioned this, I said parenting is not so much your relationship with your child, but your relationship with your spouse. And then subsequently, I went back to the same community, and one of the participants of the previous conference workshop came to me and said to me, Brother Idris, there's one thing you said that changed our life. I said, only one thing. I was just joking. They said, no, but let us share that. She said, you know, when you mention that parenting is not so much your relationship with your child, but your relationship with your spouse, he says, then we began to reflect on our relationship with each other. We realized that we scream at each other, that we do not show respect, there is no kindness, we interrupt each other, and we decided to change that. We decided to be civil, we decided to show social etiquette, and you will not believe it, once we started doing that, our children also responded accordingly. They became quieter, not that we suppressed them, they were more respectful with each other, they were more loving towards each other. The important thing is this, whenever there is an issue with the children, you know, there is a acronym, I call it ABC. The ABC is, you look at the antecedent. What is it that caused the behavior? The B. Recognize the behavior and look at the consequences. So instead of you merely shouting them down or being punitive, try to find out the underlying reasons for that behavior, right? And the people misbehave, children, for any number of reasons. Some of the reasons I'll share with you. One, because they feel a sense of inadequacy. Second, they got low self-esteem. Thirdly, it's out of revenge. Fourthly, because it gives them some kind of negative satisfaction. Fifthly, it gives them a sense of superiority. And the last reason is also very, very important. They are trying to manipulate you. So I think it's important that we need to understand that children must feel loved by both parents. Parents themselves need to be expressive. We sometimes think we buy them whatever we want, do all these things that is sufficient for us to communicate that we love you, but love comes in other ways, as our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam showed us, through hugging, loving, nurturing, and so on and so forth.
Well, thank you very much for that beautiful explanation. We would like to call on Sister Surah Ogunfemi, if you can join us now. You're still on mute. You're muted. Okay.
Can someone phone her and tell her that? Because for me, it sounds...
Hello.
Oh, so
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, now I can't hear you.
Oh. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, yes, I can hear you, and I hope I'm being heard too. All right. So
we can hear you. So the question is, how can parents foster peace and unity among their children to an extent in which sibling rivalry is eliminated?
Okay, yes, that's a very, very important thing we need to discuss if we're having a conversation around conflict generally. And I would like to say that siblings have a very long history of conflict. We all know where it all started from. And if we bring it down to our own very families, you know, the moment child number 2 is brought into the home, it's like if not properly managed, if the parents are not informed, they're not conscious of everything that needs to be done in a parenting or in a marital relationship, which includes parenting, then they may actually be unintentionally and naturally fostering sibling rivalry. What do I mean? let's take example of the first thing we may probably need to do is to watch our language around our children. So I'd like to take example of labels. It's very common that most of the time we like to label our children. Oh, this, oh, mashallah, is so smart, or oh, this one is always so difficult, you know, or so disorganized, so lazy. It's always not showing interest and what have you. And let's not kid it. The moment we start labeling our children, we set up the stage for comparison between one and the other. So let's take, for example, a negative label. When you tell a child that is a difficult child, or it's being disorganized, or it's bringing you lots of trouble, or whatever you say to that child is internalizing it. And unconsciously, the child is going to become who you have labeled him or her as. And even when those things are negative, you know, like when you say a child is being difficult or bringing you trouble or whatever, the child unconsciously, you know, is not sitting in a place that, oh, he's going to turn happy about what you're saying about him. But hey, you're the parent, there's a limit to what he can say. There's that, you know, respect thing between parents and their children. So because he cannot get back at you, what is that child going to do? He will unconsciously be turning to another sibling in the home, who, especially if is in quotes being seen as a model of what you want. So for instance, if you have a child that you say, oh, this one is so smart, or oh, she's so cute, and all of those things, now that's a positive label, right? And most of us as parents usually use it with the hope of helping our children build the confidence and encourage them and all of those things. But here is what it is. Whether the labels are positive or negative, they are both detrimental to that air of collaboration, cooperation, teamwork we want to set up in the family. Because if you're saying this is a smart child, so if she is a smart one, then what am I? So unconsciously, you have set me up against that child. And there's a tendency for the one that is being seen as cute, pretty, to have that air, you know, of arrogance that mommy has said I'm this, or daddy has said I'm that. So that's how, as parents, we unintentionally pitch one child against the other. So we need to watch what labels we're using around our children. In fact, we need to drop the labels and rather find ways of using encouraging words, you know, to get the children in the direction we want them to go, and at the same time making time for training. And what do I mean by this? Say, for example, you have a child that is so disorganized, or is not working so hard, or you believe that the result is bringing home is below his capability. What can you do? And this is the same child that when it comes to, say, social media or telephone or screen time or outdoor fun is number one. You can, you know, you can encourage him with that, using that thing is good at, or excites him, or it brings, that takes his energy, you know, use that as a motivation to encourage him in that area that he needs to make adjustments. So you could say something like, oh, Marshall, I love the energy with which, you know, you excel when it comes to anything football or anything computers or anything. How I wish you could, you know, take a fraction of that energy and use it in this. Now, how can we work it out? What can we do? Give room for training. Okay, can we block out 1 hour a day to help you scale up in that area so it can be better? So if it's organization, so okay, now you come to the child to look at your room. Rather than look at your room, it's always dirty, it's always filthy. Is that not your sister? See, she has made her bed, glue, everything is littered. You used toothpaste, you didn't cover it. Those things are they are corrective. We mean them to be corrective, but at the end of the day, they are not helpful, and they pitch one child against the other. So you want to use the okay, you know, the way you stack up whatever the child is doing well, anything that is going well for the child, use that, bring it into that situation. Okay, that same energy you pitch in there, how can you pitch it in here so that you can achieve at least the same goal, so that, you know, your life can be balanced? What everyone should be striving for is to have that balance. Our lives are like wheels, and you know, when one it's just like the car tire, when one tire is deflated, there's a way the car will be moving. It will not be optimal. What you should be aiming for is to have an optimal or balanced life. So how can you ensure this? You know, taking time for the training, painting the bigger picture for the child, without actually pitching one child against the other. So you need to watch the labels we're using. In fact, drop those labels. Use words of encouragement. Look for what is going on well, rather than focusing your energy on what isn't going well. That's one. Then two, most of the time, as parents, we'll have, in quote, go-to child. We all know that child that when you ask to do something, it's like, ASAP, he's done it for you. There's a tendency to always want to go to that child. And what happens, you're also unintentionally, breeding competition between that child and his other siblings. So what can you do in that situation? Can you have age-appropriate rules that you give every child? Like I said, you need to take time for training. Most of the time, we assume that children should come in and they should just know all those things by the mere fact that, they're living with, they should just know. But we need to be deliberate, that we should understand that there's lots of distraction, and there's a need for us to be very, very deliberate about the things we want to maximize in the lives of our children. So instead of saying, oh, this is a go-to child that will get you everything done in a gypsy and all, can you find ways to give roles and responsibilities to all the children in that family? So none is feeling like it's more superior, or, oh, me, I'm the lower one on the rank, and my sister is the only one that gets noticed, that gets all of the attention. Every child in our family needs to have that sense of belonging and significance, and we are in the position as parents to help them build those skills. So you want to find, even your 2-year-old can put napkins on the table, can clear, can gather a rag, can pick your phone, can do something. So you want to spread responsibilities around and not just concentrate it on one, because when the children unconsciously, children are they're good listeners, but they're very poor interpreters. You have meaning well, but they're interpreting like, oh, okay, probably she doesn't like me. And the children need to feel that they experience that unconditional love, that security within our homes. And then we all know that whatever we do, there'll always be times when our children will have conflicts among themselves. What we also don't want to do is to be jumping into those situations to play judge and jury and all of those things. Rather, I want to maintain like this, how the sport casting, when the referee is on the field, it doesn't, even if he has a team, it doesn't show it, right? It keeps on nudging it further, and the ball goes to player this and over to this, that. That's what we want to maintain our family. We don't want to pitch one child against the other. We don't want to take sides. When they're having discords, when they're having conflicts, we want to ignore the conflicts as much as we can, because here's the message we're passing. We're telling them that we believe in them, that they have the skills to resolve whatever conflicts that come their way. Now, there are times that maybe the children will need training on how to handle those conflicts. Then we also know that we need to give room for that training. Okay, this is what, when ABC happens, like we said earlier, can you walk away and I'll come back to the situation when you feel better to address it in a calm way, or can you seek for the intervention of a helpful adult or something? And there are times you just want to put the children in the same boat, because whether you are the aggressor or the victim, right? For the mere fact that you were there, you have contributed to the rivalry, to the competition that's ongoing. But what happens most of the time in our home is that, something has happened, maybe 2 days before, 20 minutes before, you didn't know. You just entered the room and you weren't there when the victim was taunting her elder one, doing things and pranking her, and she had been telling her, stop it, I don't like it. Then by the time you just open, you just see her giving her one blow. And you're like, oh yeah, come here. And then you dole out lots of punishment and all those things on the child. What you didn't witness was the 20 minutes before that time, when that elder sibling had been telling the younger one, take care, I'm not interested in this, stop this prank and all of those things. So what you want to do is, you want to, like I said, ignore the fight as much as you can and give them the opportunity to resolve it, while also equipping them with skills they need to resolve the conflicts, outside the situation. And then when you see that things are getting out of hand, like maybe there are danger issues, of course, they're not going to ignore when you see that a child is really, really going to get hurt. But you want to come in and intervene, like, oh, so, okay, I see that this is, you both are having a serious issue here, and then we're going to, can leave this issue and move on to something else, that when we're all come out, we can address it. But most of the time when we come into the situation and say, what happened? There's no way you can know what happened. So that question is even the wrongest question to ask, So you also want to put the children in the same boat. So they're fighting over maybe who is watching this channel or that. Can you say, okay, use either or statements. It's either you all both agree to resolve a conflict and stick to one channel, or you both lose the opportunity to watch TV in the next 2 days, 1 day, 2 hours, next hour, whatever works for you. So we as parents must know the role we're playing in aggravating conflict situation and help our children, and in fact, remove ourselves from those situations, watch our language around the children, and use words of encouragement, give room for training. And then, of course, when the conflicts happen, we want to put the children in the same boat without taking sides.
Okay.
In fact,
thank you very much,
could I just add to what my beloved sister mentioned now, right? Is it okay? Can I just add a few things?
Yes, please.
Okay. You see, and Alhamdulillah, I'm so glad I'm sharing the platform with her, and I'm learning from her, Alhamdulillah. But there are two things that I want to mention. The one is that psychologists have said that 85% of the things that we share with children are negative. In fact, it should be the other way about. 85% should be positive. Now, if you got a negative talk when you tell your kids, you're stupid, you're always fighting, and you're doing this and whatnot, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It leads to a self-talk, and they begin to believe in it. So you got to give children positive attributes. When you say to your child, Muhammad, I believe you, Muhammad. I know you made a mistake, and Muhammad will not do this again. There's one. The second thing is there's something that I encourage every home is to do three things, but I'll talk about one of those three things, is to develop core family values. And in those family values, you could say that when we speak to each other with love, that we listen with empathy, that we are polite, we never interrupt, that we never raise our hands, we never raise our voices and stuff like that. Make those values, let them eternalize those values. And you find, inshallah, studies have also shown that people that have had siblings, they are far more effective leaders than those born without siblings. So the benefits that accrue from having a sibling or a brother or a sister or a few brothers and sisters is something that you cannot quantify. Okay.
Okay, thank you for that beautiful addition. I love the fact that Sister Surah mentioned labels, roles, and responsibilities are not aggravating conflicts with siblings. So we have the next question, which says, what are the do's and don'ts of parenting biological children, stepchildren, and non-biological children together? Sister Surah, please, can you start for us, please?
Okay, that can be a tough place to be. And I'd just like to say that, like everything in life, and that we have been advised by Nabi Sallam, is to start with our niyyah, our intention. So we need to ask ourselves, when we find ourselves in a family situation where we have our biological children, stepchildren, and all of those things, which is more popularly referred to as blended families, we need to make sure that our intention is, review our intention, understand our intention. Is your intention to be a good parent, or is your intention to come in and, prove a point, and what identity do you want to be associated with yourself? Once you understand that identity you want to wear, am I a good parent, being able to manage all of this thing? Because all these other children who are not your biological children are actually like a bonus card for you, and the means by which you can actually earn extra reward, extra care, extra of everything, if only your intention is in alignment with the positive. So, for instance, if you set out with the intention to be an effective and good parent, wanting the success of those children, you want them to grow up feeling secured, even when you are not, in quote, the biological parents, then there's an identity that's already forming the identity you want to wear. And there are already values you need to adopt. There are beliefs you need to wear that will help you shape how you behave, how you respond, so that your purpose of maybe perhaps, I don't know what it is, assuming it's using it as a means of earning extra reward with Allah, can actually come to play. So you need to, first of all, understand that there's a lot you can play in your hand. And these children that you're coming to, they already have a history and a story behind them, right? And you can't expect to come in one day and then have all of those things change. Even when you know that that change is going to be to the better advantage, you should also understand that it will also come with some form of sadness, right? So you want to go easy, you want to go steady, you want to go gentle. And one of the most important things you will need to do is to be an agent of influence, to be able to build relationship, build rapport, whether those children are your biological children or not, and being able to put them in the same boat, never taking sides or showing favoritism or anything. And this takes, like I said, one, intention, two, understanding your purpose, and then the being guided by your values and beliefs around that thing, and then your behavior, conscious about it. So at times it doesn't come so easy. You may hit a brick wall, you may hit resistance, but by the time you constantly put your why in your center, it makes you to be more responsive as opposed to being reactive to what you're getting. And then, you also need to be able to give room for this place of validation. Most of the time, when we validate people, where they are. Let me give you an example. Like, I think I was speaking with one of my sons yesterday, and he was saying that he felt he could do better than his current performance, right? The normal thing for us as parents is to feel, we don't want our children to feel low or feel down, and we want to rescue them. Later, I caught myself that I was playing a rescue game. I gave him room to express his, in quote, frustration as he's not been able to achieve his dream score, right? And then after validating him in that role, then we're able to now say, okay, so what else do you think you can do? Where else do you think you can improve? So most of the time we think validating is only when something is going on well. Oh, you got all A's, mashallah, tabarakallah. No, you may need to validate someone that is feeling sad that his mom or dad is no more in the situation, and approach that situation with empathy and let him know, okay, I get you. There are some days that we may not just be as wonderful. There are some days that you're probably reflecting or thinking or whatever. And this could have been a result of anything. It could be two good people who thought, or have come to a realization that they can't live together again, so there is a divorce. It could be due to one parent, being answering the call of Allah. There's so many reasons that could lead to you being a step parent or living a blended family situation per time. So whatever it is, you want to validate the feelings of these people and then treat them as yours. There's something I like to talk about, I'm a big fan, which is giving genuine encounter moments, mind, body, and soul time to every child that is in the home. And when you're able to do this, right, that's like you zero in focusing on that child, showing interest in whatever is at interest to that child per time. This will help you to gain connection, bond better with that child, and over time you're able to have influence over the child, because naturally we aggravate towards people who get us, who allow us, that space and who show interest in us. But if your idea is just to come in with an agenda and you want to force that agenda down everybody in that family because of your position, then you're going to meet a brick wall. You're going to have conscious resistance. And at the end of the day, there will be lots of conflicts which may take thy kingdom come to resolve. So you want to be an epitome of understanding, okay, I may not have been there, but okay, I can imagine what you're going through. And then, like they say kindness is a language the blind can see and the deaf can hear. So your intention, the identity, who you want to be. Do you want to be the famous stepmother fairy story we hear? Or do you want to change the narrative and show that, okay, I mean, irrespective of whether these children are biological children or not, yes, we know that there is that natural tendency. But can I develop myself, put myself in a situation where I'm able to show love to these children, even in a co-marriage relationship? Allah said in the Quran, He said, "Do not." He said there is no, even as hard as you try, it will be difficult for you to do justice between two wives. But do not align so much to one that would leave the other one hanging. So if I can bring that into this situation, yes, these are your biological children are here, and there's a tendency for you to have more affinity, more concern over them. But do not do it so much that the others will feel like, oh, no, she's not our mother, And then another thing is, if it is a situation where the biological parents of those children are still alive, you also want to support the building their relationship with that person. Whatever you can do within your control that can help foster that relationship, whether they need to go and do some visitation, spend time with her, whatever. You don't want to close the door and forbid them or ban them or disown them because they're communicating with that person, irrespective. So assuming it's a man that owns the children and the partner with whom he had those children is no more in that relationship. The fact that both of you, your relationship didn't work as spouses does not mean that the parent-child relationship too should have a blockage. You want to see how you can even still make these children have, and this is irrespective of what happened. A parent, you cannot negotiate, exchange, or change your parent. Who you have is what you get. So you want to ensure that all of those things take place. And finally, I would like to say, like it's just like when we're in a businesses, in our offices, right? Different kinds of people come in, and at times we're made to put on the same project. We definitely may not like ourselves, but the objective of the project will be the binding factor with which we will all work together. So in that family, what is the objective? And that's where, like Brother Idris said earlier, having family values. What is our value in this family? And then having family meetings, regular meetings, where we'll check in on each other and see what's working, what isn't working, where do we need to make adjustments, and all of those things. So that people can actually feel heard, feel acknowledged, and feel that, like, yes, they're actually valuable members of that family.
Thank you very much. So we'll call on Mr. Idris to share some light, so share more information about what are the do's and don'ts of parenting biological children, stepchildren, and non-biological children altogether, also known as the blended family, as rightly pointed out by Sister Surah. Thank you very much.
Okay. There is a particular issue about blending families, right? The important thing is this, that I really believe that all prospective couples, whether you've been married before or not, need to go for premarital counseling, because your parenting styles must not be in conflict. Sometimes I know when you tell your biological child, you know what, daddy is going to get married now, mommy is no more here, right? And kids are kids, they're very possessive. Say, no, daddy, we don't want you to get married. Say, no, I'll get married. There's a lovely lady here. But if you are unhappy, then I would make sure I separate from her. Now, what is important is that discussion between those individuals must take place before you marry. That's one aspect. But I believe in the end that all children, biological, otherwise, need the same thing. What do they need? I often ascribe it to the 6 A's. The first A, they all require acceptance. They all require acknowledgement. They all require appreciation. They all require affection. They all require attention. They all require positive attributes. And when you give children these 6 A's, then you are really going to have a family that is happy, a family that is harmonious. Now, the whole thing is this, that often when it comes to blending families, you find because of the children, it can be quite a challenge. So it's very, very important to discuss all of these things. But the needs of each child is the same, biological or otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that brief, wonderful answer. The 6 A's: acceptance, appreciation, acknowledgement, attention, and more. That's so interesting. So we'd like to move on to the next question, which is, what is the impact of conflicting parenting styles in the child? For example, a child takes something without asking first, and one parent wants to discipline the child and the other one wants to reason with the child. How can we set boundaries and guidelines of what is acceptable or not? So basically, it's just asking about when two parents have different styles as regards disciplining the child, creating boundaries and guidelines.
You see, regarding that, I have no issue if they have a different style. But if the style is divergent, if that style, for example, sends conflicting messages to the children, then it is problematic. Then what you are really going to do, you are going to incubate a monster, inverted commas. And children that grow up in those homes know exactly how they able to manipulate one against the other. So what is important, both the mother and the father need to have a thorough discussion about issues at home. The worst is when one parent undermines the other in front of the children. And you are sending a message to the child. In fact, just for our information, globally, one of the 4 main reasons for divorce has been the fact when the mother and the father have a divergent philosophy regarding the child. Just to give you an incident, the incident that I want to give you, or incidents, one, for example. Let us say that the son or daughter has done something that is serious, maybe copying at school or whatever it is. And you tell the son, wait for daddy to come. And when the father comes home and you tell him that, you know, darling, I'm so upset about what Fatima has done at school. And the father might say, you know what, leave her. She's a growing girl. She made a mistake. And then it happens a few times. Then the mother says, you know what, I'm wasting my time talking to my husband about the kids. And then it comes a point when she herself begins to ignore the deviant behavior, even when they are miscreants, when they do things that are antithetical. So what happens? Then you are giving the children a free rein. So I think it's important, it is critical for parents to be on the same page regarding the children.
Okay, yes, that's absolutely correct. You need to present yourself as an unstoppable team. And most of the time when, like our father said, the divergence, as long as your styles aren't divergent. And that's why it's important for us to not just focus on the marriage, the naming ceremony, having children and paying school fees and all of those things. There are lots of in-between issues which we need to bring to the table and discuss. We need to begin to see the need to scale up in our parenting. And because time has changed, in the past, right? The information level or authority level in the family was like top down. So we have like the father at the top, and then whatever he said, the mother and the children had to obey. But we are living in an environment right now that that's not the case. So how do we want to ensure that what we're saying per time is toward the same objective? We need to have conversations, we need to have meetings, we need to check in with one another. And more importantly, like Brother Idris said earlier, that when he went to give a talk in the UK, and there was a statement he made, and someone responded that, oh, that was like the best part. And that actually, it's true. Because the reality is that when our spousal relationship is top notch, then our parental relationship will be the better for it. Most of the time, a gap in parental relationship is an indication that our marital relationship needs attention. It needs grooming. It's an indication that our love account is depleting and we're not making an effort to, fill it up. It's an indication that we are focusing more on being a parent than being a partner. It's an indication that we're seeing our partners. So like my opinion on discipline, on the chores, on technology, on what have you, against my partner's opinion, as opposed to both of us against this problem we have. How do we address it as a team? At any time, per time, the children need to see us and our spouses as a team, presenting a common front. Otherwise, the children are very manipulative and they will definitely pitch one against the other. So when they know that, oh, mommy is going to say no, they're going to ask daddy. And when daddy will say no, they'll ask mommy. And then by the time you challenge, they say, oh, mommy said yes. And the other thing is that when issues like this happen, you also do not want to aggravate it by undermining your spouse's authority in the presence of the children. So that sometimes say, this is your father. Hey, this is your mother. How can I go? Okay, he's being irresponsible. He's in this. How can I agree to you to watch him? So. Doesn't know that there's school tomorrow. And it reminds me of several years ago. So my family lives here in Abuja, and my husband works in Lagos. And when it comes to Abuja, the weekends it comes to Abuja, especially when the children were much younger, we try to have some kind of family ritual around those times. And, it could just be in the house. It could be going out to the cinema or anything. And I remember this particular day, it was on a Sunday. And so I think we all said we're going to go to the cinema. And this was now like Sunday evening. By the time we got there, the movie they wanted to watch, we had missed the earlier time. The next time was 9. Left to me, that means we're going back home. Tomorrow is Monday. Daddy has a flight to catch. I children need to get to school early. So, but I saw daddy going with the flow with the children. In as much as I was furious, I had to be an epitome of calm and confidence and, just stay through. I knew that at that moment was not the time to start disagreeing or anything. I knew that was a good opportunity for me to allow natural consequences to just be the judge in the matter. So there we were. This was like a 2-hour, 15-minute movie. And then So it started at 9. That meant that we're going to finish around past 11. All through the movie, I did not enjoy it. I just sat down there like, and thinking of, okay, in the morning, we need to wake up early, get the lunch packs ready, do airport shuttle and all of those things. And then, of course, we all got home tired. But the good thing is, because the children felt they were heard and their opinion counted, right? They were supportive in ensuring that we all tried to meet up the following day. Now, imagine if at that time I had said, 9 o'clock, no, we have to go back home. And hey, my husband is a film lover. So you also need to understand what is a pain point or what is something that the other person values. And this is a man that works so hard. So if this is how he has chosen to relax before going back to work, then okay. So I may as well, that one day of will I call it rigor for me, can as well pass. Let it be like the sacrifice I'm making and all. So we need to ensure that even when we disagree, we're not doing it in front of the children. That's not the place. That's not the place for the conversation. The place for that conversation is when we're one-on-one behind a closed door, and most especially when the ambience is calm and good. Everyone has that magic moment when you know that, okay, whatever bill you bring to the table will pass. That's all you want to watch out for. Not, bringing, if you do it while you're frustrated, is either you're going to be criticizing, be commanding, or talking in a deliberate matter. And that, again, will deplete your love account. And someone who is already not feeling validated by you, who is already feeling like, the squabbles are more, will find another way to oppose you. And it's just something that happens unconsciously. It doesn't mean that that spouse is bad or anything. So that's why we all have to skill up, learn what to do at per time, and ensure that at any time we're presenting a common front in the presence of our children. And more importantly, pay attention to our relationship. What are the things that can deplete from it? And that's another, if, for instance, you're not able to have conversation with your spouse, or he is withdrawing or you're withdrawing, or intimacy is a drag, or when he's talking, having conversation with you, you're responding but giving monosyllables or focus on your phone or other things. Those things are going to be depleting your relationship. And the natural thing is that when you come and say A, he may just say B, just for that day of, okay, you can't be the boss of me in all areas of my life. Okay, this place, I will show you that I'm the boss of myself. So you want to pay attention and also find ways, tiny ways in between the day, just like our brother Idris said, things that, every child needs to feel in the family. Our spouses also need to feel accepted. They need to feel acknowledged. They need to feel appreciated. So even during the day, can you find a way to just, just hug for no reason, give him a peck for no reason, give him an appreciative message for no reason. And these little things, as small as they seem, actually have a way of nurturing that relationship. And when that relationship is seen as us, we're one team, then it'll be easier for us to agree whether on discipline issues, the school the children should attend, the kind of after school activity they should adopt, the kind whether they should have a phone or not, all those things that seem like, or the food they should eat, whether the child they should do in the homes. When our relationship, our spousal relationship, is well managed, well groomed, well nurtured, all those other things will begin to fall in place better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for answering these questions. And what I got back from here is that a gap in parental relationship has a lot of influence as regards conflicts in the home. So having that in mind, we just want to move on to the next question, which says, how does one inform his or her children about an impending divorce or separation without being toxic? And how can separated couples build a model which prioritizes the growth and well-being of children? So Mr. Idris would like you to address this for us, please.
Yes, I was surprised when years ago I came across a survey in which teenagers were asked this question: what is it that you like your mom and dad to talk to you about? And they said, if mommy and daddy are going through a problem, we should be the first ones to know about it. Others must not tell us. And that to me was very, very insightful and very revealing. And I think what is important is this, you know, as my friend Sheikh Babakar from London, originally from Sudan, he said when couples leave, when they decide to lead their own lives, they must not leave when they are angry, but when they are calm. They must be respectful. They must be able to say, you know what, you and I tried everything to make a happy home, but sadly, two of us sadly cannot be in the same home because of our differences. Now, the critical thing in the end, what you got to understand, whilst the wife and husband separate, but the mother in the wife and the father in the husband never separates. In the end, you do whatever it takes to be dynamic and effective parents, to minimize the trauma of the divorce. There are many things that you can do. And some of the things that I will suggest to you in a moment. But what is important is this, that as parents, we must not, in essence, because of the issues that we have, to really make the situation untenable and problematic. What needs to be done is to make sure that you do whatever it takes. So I would just suggest some points here. There are many points. Firstly, both of you need to be cooperative and respectful. Both of you need to manage your own emotions and those of your children. Never speak ill of each other in front of the kids or anywhere else. Remember, yes, the marriage was about you, but the custody is about the children. Remember, what is ever best for your child may not be best for you as a parent. A bad spouse does not mean a bad parent. Don't live in the past. Next point, never try to score points. And remember, children need the love of both the parents. Next one, do not manipulate the children. Next one, find an agreed way to communicate. Pick your battles. Your children need to be heard. And make sure that whatever routine you have in your home, they should also have it in your ex-spouse's home. Do ensure that the children grow up with Islamic values. Do not threaten litigation, no name calling. All decisions need to be done in consultation. Do not speak ill of the extended family. Just a few more. Let these years be the best years for our children. Their joy is ours and the pain is ours. At the same token, they need to be disciplined. We must do so. Do not entertain gossip about each other. So there has to be a plan of action. Remember, in a divorce, no one comes out unscathed, but the damage is never irretrievable. It all depends. In the end, they must not be used as a football. So with that, inshallah, I pray with those guidelines to be able to handle them and with love.
Thank you very much for that. For the key points you shared with us. I took note of a lot of them. It's very important. I want to talk, Sister Surah, please, would you share with us your opinion as regards this? How does one inform his or her children about an impending divorce or separation without being toxic? And how can separated couples build a model which prioritizes the growth and well-being of children?
Okay, thank you. If we start from the first thing you said, how do you involve them without being toxic? Now, you need to keep this age appropriate. And so you need to let your children across all ages know that
we having a moment here. We can actually hear her or communicate with her. I hope I'm not. Can you hear me? Assalamu alaikum. Okay, I'm still in the session. While we wait for Sister Surah to get back online. Is she back online? She's not back online yet. Okay, Sister Surah, are you with us now?
Yeah,
you were out of okay. Yeah. All right. Please carry on.
Okay, so like I was saying, I said that we need to address it in age-appropriate manners, and depending on the age of our children, the level of information we give to them. For our children who are really young, we just may want to let them know that, okay, daddy and mommy have decided to be daddies and mommy in other homes, and while assuring those children that they will still remain their parents and they will be cared for and they will still have access to them. And of course, you also need to give them space because no matter, in fact, you need to even let them know I've decided to take a divorce. You need to use that word because that word they're going to be hearing that word around them. And like Brother Idris said, children don't want to be hearing something about them from outsiders. They want to hear from you. That's where you build the trust and credibility around them. So use the word. Let them know that, yes, you're going on a divorce. But also to let them know that, yes, in a relationship, it may not necessarily be one big thing. It could be a series of small issues that makes everyone unhappy. And so because of that, you have decided to go on a divorce. And you need to, assure them that you will still remain the parents they have. And nothing is going to take that away from them. Yeah, so it's very, very important, the words we use and being able to let them know what exactly is going on. And then the second part of the question, how to cope, right? So on the parents, you need to also ensure that you're putting those children at the center per time. What we do most of the time is to put them in the middle. And then so it's like a tug of war, but if as parents we realize that, okay, we are just saying we're unfit to live together, and we know that in a divorce situation, there are going to be several stories, 2 or more, and each person's truth is different from the other person's truth, right? So as much as is required, you need to, of course, put limits on what you tell the children, but as much as you can let them know so that they're not hearing things from outside, you want to let them know what's going on and then focus. So now you're like in a co-parenting situation, and you need to ensure that the care of those children is paramount in the decisions you're making, because there may be issues of them having to shuffle between one house and the other. You need to factor that in. So, but unfortunately, what happens in the environment is that once there's a divorce, it's like a party runs away, in quote, almost like kidnapping the children, and then the other party is left without access to the children. Even under Islamic Sharia, I know this is not right, and this is one of the things we need to do. And then as people around, we also need to be able to offer support and just the necessary support to both parties, because it really can be hard, because as it's where parents already have schedules, right? In a family situation, normally we already know that one parent probably be spending more time with the children, And then when there's divorce, you now say, no, it has to be 50-50. That's like you're putting the children in the middle. Even when there was no divorce, or even in quote, families that are together, the parents don't necessarily share the time 50-50. They just give as is necessary, as is required, as is needed. So you don't want to, just because you want to oppose the other person or make life difficult. No, you need to be objective, you need to be effective. You need to understand that, okay, this is already tough on the children. They're probably traumatized by the event, and this is something they're going to wear all through their lifetime. You don't want to make it worse than it actually is. So you need to tap into that goodness, good human beingness in you, if I can use that word, and ensure that, in every situation, every decision you're making, you're putting those children at the center. You're reflecting how will it impact those children. If I do X, Y, Z, what will be the impact on these children? Because the fact that they are losing the parents are no more in a relationship doesn't mean that they should lose their parents as well. So that parenting is on us, and we must do everything we can to ensure that we are communicating. And talking about that communication, we're not saying that, hey, you have to be friends, but you just have to be business-like. Just like I made an example before, it's just like when you have a team, it's not everyone on your team that you gel with and you go along with, but the project has a goal, but it becomes everybody's objective to ensure that the goal of that project is achieved. So in case of divorce, that exactly what it is. These children are already a goal, and you need to ensure that everything you're doing is to the benefit of those children. So whatever communication, if you feel that, if we have one-on-one communication, things can escalate. There's so many means you can communicate nowadays. You have email, you have voice notes, you have SMS, but there has to be communication. You don't want to leave one parent, not knowing what's going on in his or her child's life. It is or her right. It needs to know. It needs to have information as well. Except, of course, when there are safety issues involved, and then that's another ball game entirely. But assuming all things being equal, you need to make sure that you're kind in your communication. You still treat this person as a human being. Kind meaning that you're kid-centered, you're putting your children at the center, you're giving information as required, you're nice, and then you're being direct, official, formal, so that the children, as I said, will be at the center and actually do not lose their parents in addition to the trauma or hurt they're already going through.
Thank you very much for this wonderful explanation and solutions. Well, you talked about tapping into our goodness, and also there's so many ways to communicate. So moving forward from this question, the next question is, in what ways can we break down the barrier of communication between children and adults? And what healing process should children who have grown up in homes where conflict is the norm resort to? Sister Surah, please, can you begin answering this question for us? I hope that's okay.
Okay, yeah. Can you say the question again, please?
Okay, it goes like this. In what ways can we break down the barrier of communication between children and adults? And what healing process should children who have grown up in homes where conflict is the norm resort to? So the healing process where children who have grown up in home, yeah.
Okay. So talking about the communication, breaking up the barriers, you see, unfortunately, we find ourselves living in environment which is fast changing, though we used to live in an environment where we believe that children were meant to be seen and not heard. Now, so moving away from that, we began a culture that was now became to the flip side. So the idea is staying in that in the middle, finding that center point away from both extremes. It's very, very important that that communication channel between parents and children is left open, and it starts from when children are little. Acknowledging their feelings. Most of the time, when a child comes and says, I'm hungry, okay, so you've served lunch, and child probably didn't even finish the food or ask for more. And then a few minutes later, child comes and says, I'm hungry. And what do we typically do? Hungry, but what can you be hungry? Did you just finish eating? What are we doing? We're telling the child to snub his feelings. We're telling him that to deny them. What he's feeling is not feeling. A more helpful thing to say may be like, hungry. Hungry like how? Hungry like you want to have another ration of food or you just want to snack? I mean, we, as adults too, we finish eating sometimes, just for like, just munching some small chops along the way. So it could be that. So we need to be open, allow children to express themselves, and then listen attentively to them. Listen to what they have to say. And then not just listening, feigning listening. There's a way to listen, like, okay. But there's a way to listen with 100% of your attention, being centered on that child, and actually seeing the world through his eyes. This helps that child to feel acknowledged in the moment. And when the child knows that, okay, is acknowledged, he feels valued, and then is able to come up, and discuss, the door of communication will be open. Most of the time when our children are little, we ignore their voices. And then when they grow older, especially when they get to the teenagers, we begin to say, he doesn't even tell me anything. He closes up on me. I've tried to ask, this thing is built over time. And we need to be aware. That's why it's important for us to really, really skill up. There's nothing today that you want to learn or to be better at, and then you just be like, I'll do it the way they've been doing. No, there's a place to build capacity. And you must continuously look for ways to build and improve on your capacity per time. So for these children, they need to feel acknowledged, they need to feel seen, and then they need to feel that the environment is not threatening, so they can express themselves or say things according to what they feel. I remember that in the lockdown, I had my son come to me, one of my sons, and he told us point blank that he wasn't going back to school. And we're like, well, like, see, he has seen that, he knows, he has a clear understanding of his future, and he sees that going to school, going to learn physics, chemistry is not a place, doesn't have a place in that future, And he was like, see, in the past, right, I had to think that what I wanted for my life was, okay, when I go home, have a good job, then have a very nice car, and then, but see, all that one has changed now. I want to just, he decided to start all this model of what he wanted his future to be, and this physics and chemistry was not just going to cut it. And going back to school would mean that we'll have to study hard to pass, and pass an exam that will have had no value to him at the end of the day. I was grateful that, he could have that kind of open communication to express what he really felt. And what that did was to open the door, the window, the opportunity for us to intervene, to really hear him, and to kind of guide him towards, possibilities that can also erupt if he decides to complete his secondary school. At that time, it was in SS2. So it meant just one more year to go. Even though, yes, we had to kind of go into the negotiation, and we agreed, okay, so the point was, okay, fine. If you can just finish SS3, don't worry. After SS3, if you decide not to go, okay, you have this business idea, this business model. And you see, he's his business plan. Highly unrealistic. So today is making 100,000 on the business. Tomorrow is 200,000. Next tomorrow is 400, 800. And like, so I'm like, in real life, it doesn't work like that, but that he was even able to conceptualize something and voice out his opinion. It shows the kind of environment we have been able to create, to open, to allow their expression, and then use it as an opportunity to guide them. Now, if I tell you that today he's already decided on the course he wants to study. In fact, the other day I was like, okay, between this X, Y, Z you want to do and this one, on a scale of 1 to 3, which one would you do? And going to the, in quotes, university became the first thing he chose. So we need to also, all these things we say about listen to your child. We're not saying give authority in parenting to your child. No, as parents, you still have the authority. What we're saying is that when you hear them out, you have the opportunity to leverage on what the thoughts are and help them to shape it appropriately. Or if they're already doing a good job, yes, encourage them on the journey. So it's very important to, and then, giving them that moment to make decisions. You need to make your home one that it's like decision rich. Most of the time, what we do is, even what they want to wear, they're going to with other, like, are you going with me in that outfit? No way, go and change it. Even a child as little as 3-year-old can choose the outfit he wants to wear for an event. But we're so most of the time worried about, whether it's matching or not, and none of those things, and losing sight of the long-term skills we're putting into those children. My toddler went for a party yesterday, and I didn't go with him. And then when I went later in the evening to pick him up, everybody was like, hey, this is your son. In fact, when they put Mike, he was the only child that was able to say his name. The way he played, when they did this, they did that. And I'm like, okay, it's not, these things seem like magic, but it's some level of deliberateness. As I sat to prepare for this class today, this morning, he said he wanted to paint. So I went, got his painting stuff for him. He made a big mess. But at the end of the mess, I told him, okay, go and bring the napkin. And he was like, he wasn't the one that said, I want to clean it myself. Go ahead and clean it. So all these things are ways we break communication. It may seem indirect, unrelated to it, but in the long run, they have a place to a role to play in a child, the way a child sees himself. It has a role to play in the confidence. We'll all come back and say, the child does not have confidence. What are the capabilities this child has? And capabilities come from doing. So when you have said, no, you can't even decide what you're going to wear. No, you can't even decide what you're going to do in future. No, you can't even decide X, Y, Z, and you're going to be the one that will decide everything. That child is going to close up on you. And at the end of the day, you're not going to even have any influence. The child will just be marking time. I've had people say to me that immediately they left, they got married. It was like they closed the door on the siblings, even the parents, and they were just doing like routine because they never felt like that time. They will wonder, were these people really biological parents? Even growing up, I had a neighbor, very well-placed man, back in those days, their dad was working in Shell, and each time he traveled, the children would say, they wish this man would just have an accident and die and not return. Today, the man is still living. He's over 80 years old now. Their mom is late, but he's still living. So what would make a child think that, oh God, I'm better off in my life without you? So we're not saying give children the reins. We're saying what decisions can you allow them to make. We're saying what choices can you give them. We're saying what training opportunities can you make available to them. We're saying what are the ways you can help them to learn natural consequences of their actions or inactions so that they begin to make better choices in future. And the other part of your question is how can we make the separation less traumatizing for children, right? So let's even assume the worst situation where probably one sibling actually abandoned the other, one spouse abandoned the other with the children. Now, you see, we need to begin to create an awareness that yes, in as much as the father and the mother are the natural people or encouragers in life of a child, there are still lots of good adults out there that the child can relate to and actually associate with and see as his or her own tribe. So it's on us to look out, be conscious about those good adults out there that can be role models, that can mentor these children, and can actually fill up that gap that the spouse that, in quotes, abandoned them would have filled. It's very important. So how can you build that tribe, that village for your child? So could it be a neighbor? Could it be a family member? Could it be just someone, a coach, a counselor, a mediator, someone that, this child will look up to, can help the child, as opposed to this child just feeling like, oh my God, because I don't have a father figure or a mother figure, then life has to really suck for me. So it's on us to help that child build his village of people. Let's not see that oh, it's about me and myself. No, you can't really do, even you can't do it all alone. We need people in our lives. And through that, that's where we learn interpersonal skills. That's where we learn teamwork. That's where we left even conflict resolution and so many other things, leadership and all. So you want to find out such opportunities for your child such that it doesn't feel like he's losing out so much on life. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that well-rounded question, answer rather. So I'm going to give the time now to Mr. Idris Kamisa. I just have to repeat that question again so we'll get everything. And it says, in what ways can we break down the barrier of communication between children and adults? And also, what healing process should children who have grown up in homes where conflict is the norm resort to? So, Mr. Idris would.
I would respond to this, and after that, I sadly I'll have to go, but I'm thoroughly enjoying all the inputs. Firstly, we got to look back at our home. We got to create a culture of conversations, a place in which we are able to celebrate, as it were, each other, where children feel free to talk and you ask your kids open-ended questions and not to intimidate them. I recall an incident many, many years ago when I tried to encourage communication between, when I was the head teacher of a school, between the parents, right, and the children. And at a particular function, we spoke, and then the father, when he was talking to me alone with his son, he said, you know what, my son never talks to me. And something gave that young boy courage to articulate what he said. He said, Daddy, one day when I attempted, because his daddy should drop him off at school, and they should drive maybe about 40 minutes to the school. And so the dad and him, we should travel. And one day the young boy said, you know what, I want to have a conversation with my father. And then he plucked up enough courage and he started the conversation. But what did the father do? The father reprimanded him. He says, can't you see I'm thinking, I'm busy? I've got no time to talk to you now. So that put the young man off. And as a result, he never used to have conversation with his father. But on that day, when he expressed that, it was so revealing and illuminating. So what I'm saying, there's often an incident, something that happens that blocks that conversation. So what we need to do is to encourage our children from a tender age to talk, let them feel free. I don't want to get too much into that detail. Regarding the other issue about minimizing the trauma, the critical thing, as psychologists say, revealing is healing, revealing is cathartic. Allow them to speak and they would heal. Allow them to share what is going on in their life. Allow them to share their attitudes and those values. And the more they speak about it, it will help them. Of course, the most important thing is for them to bow down to Allah, to share what's in their heart. Of course, Allah knows what's in our heart. In that way, it would be very, very effective. I just got to say, sadly, I have to go. I thoroughly enjoyed the interaction, especially from the guests. And we're always learning all the time. And so, inshallah, I pray that Allah grants Micah success, the wonderful things that you are doing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Idris Kamisa. Thank you for always answering the call of Micah when we call on you. We really appreciate your presence here. We appreciate your responses always. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum and salams to all the participants. Hey, shukran. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome, my beloved sister.
Okay. So those are the questions we had for our speakers today. And I've been checking in the chat messages for questions. I can't really seem to find any technical questions as regards the topic. And we have an individual here asking for recommendations on parental materials and training. Please kindly send a message to Micah. We'll get back to you on that. But remember, one of our speakers here is an expert as regards that, Sister Suraya. So we have
you are going to pay for that name, Suraya. Hey, who named me that?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Apologies if I've been saying your name correctly, wrongly rather. Please, can you
Sururo.
share with us the correct pronunciation? Surah.
Sururo.
Okay, Surah.
Sururo.
Surura. Okay.
Yep.
Surura. Okay. Thank you very much for the correction. So we have if you're new in the Zoom session, new to Micah programs, kindly indicate to us in the chat message. We appreciate you coming. Please always join Micah sessions. And also the poll, the initial poll we took at the beginning, would want to look at that poll now, and then Sister Surah can also shed some light as regards that, just like a summary, like a round off, like a closing, comment as regards that poll that we had. We have a message here from Adewale Suleiman, which says this has been very educating. Many thanks to the organizer, Jazakallah Khairan, to both Brother Idris and Sister Surah. So thank you very much for sharing that message with us. Sister Swad, please can you share with us the finals of the poll that we took earlier before the session began?
Yeah, for that poll we had, I think most people say that they sometimes find it easy to resolve conflict at home. But we're hoping that after the session, inshallah, it would be a lot better with the tools that our speakers have shared. But we also have one more poll, which is basically because of, I think from next week, you're going to have a lot of in-person sessions, and we just wanted to see how people found the sessions we've had so far. So that's what this final poll is for.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm just
Okay, thank you very much for that information. I believe we all had that. We have a final poll we'd love for you to take for us. And someone said, this recording is available on YouTube. There's the Micah Lagos YouTube channel. There's a Facebook page. It's available on YouTube, so you can always go back to the YouTube page to check. All the recordings going back several months and years available on YouTube. So just get a hold of the handle for this Micah. Get a hold of the handle for Micah, and then you can get it on YouTube. We also have very enlightening from Fatima Oregba. Thank you very much. We have Sister Aisha Remi Adedeji says, Alhamdulillah for a wonderful session. Thank you very much. First timers, thank you. Please go to our YouTube channel. And we want you to become a member of Micah. Please join Micah, become a member. If you have questions, if you have topics you would like us to shed more light on, if you want to volunteer, you can always contact Micah. And now we have the poll. So if you go to www.menti.com and then use the code 30703829, and then you can answer questions on the poll session there. Please, thank you very much. We would really appreciate if you go to www.menti.com, that's MENTI.com, and put the code 30703829. This can be found in the chat. If I'm talking too fast for you to hear me or understand me, you can just check the chat message and you would find information as regards the code you need to put into the menti.com to get access to the poll session. We have Veronica Soko says, Alhamdulillah for the beautiful discussion. Zachariah Bako, Zachariah Karen to our speakers. It's been a great session. So I want to appreciate everyone for coming here. So the poll says, how have you found our sessions so far? That's the poll for the day. Sister Surah, thank you very much for being one of the amazing speakers we had today. So once the poll is done, we'll have like a final, closing session, because we want to try as much as possible to close by 1 p.m. at the most. So thank you very much. We can see there.
We can just give it about 2 minutes and then we can do the closing prayer. People can continue doing it behind the scenes as well.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. So since we had no major questions, we believe that the tools shared by Mr. Idris Kamisa and Sister Surah would enable us, solve our conflicts at home. And based on the first poll, sometimes people find it easy to resolve conflict at home. That was about 60% of those who took the poll. That was what they said, that sometimes they find it easy to resolve conflicts at home. So thank you very much for joining this session. And while we have that showing on the screen, Sister Surah, please can you just give us some final words and also probably a closing dua, if that's okay with you?
Yeah, I've also learned a lot, and I believe that all the parents that are here today have gained one thing or the other. One thing about learning, having new information is also having the intention to actually, imbibe the new perspective we have learned. If we are not able to do it, then it just means that all what we have heard are just information, and we may not actually see that change we actually desire in our children, in our family lives. We should always also think back to a situation when we ourselves were children. How did we wish our parents had handled conflicts between themselves or between us and our siblings? Most of the time, these are also indications of what our children need to get from us. So, but unfortunately, it takes some level of deliberateness, some level of consciousness to actually do otherwise. Because most of the time, we'll see ourselves doing exactly what we have seen done, whether we liked it or not, except we make that conscious, deliberate effort to do it differently. And I'm hoping that all the perspectives we have shared on the platform, by the time we'll go back to our respective families, the time we spent here will be something that we can justify. We will be, as we've been open enough to be here, and we will also, I hope, we'll also commit to the process. Let's know that the future of the next generation lies in our hands. There's already so many things not going right. We don't want to make our own parenting or how we manage conflicts another thing gone sour. We want to know that, that there are lots of competition, lots of conflicts our children will be exposed to outside our home. What we want to do or what we want to prevent is to make our home too another battleground for conflicts that our children will have to deal with. Rather, we want to present our homes as a safe haven where each child feels loved unconditionally. And it's my dua that Allah makes this easy for us. May He bless all our children. May He make them coolness of our eyes. May He make them leaders of the righteous. And whatever errors that we have communicated or is inherent in any of us, we pray Allah forgives and overlooks it. And whatever good message we have been able to pass out, we pray that Allah makes it hasana for us and may He make it what it most matters. Amen. أقول قولي هذا استغفر الله وأتوب إليه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you very much for that wonderful session there. So we're going to call it a day now. I want to appreciate everyone for joining us, staying with us from the beginning to the end. We really appreciate you very much, Sister Sura. I hope I'm pronouncing it well properly this time.
I'm going to find you now. We'll see behind the scene.
All right, thank you. So we're calling it a day now. We appreciate everyone for joining. Thank you very much. I hope you found it educative. Alhamdulillah for a beautiful discussion. Thank you, Sister Veronica Soko, to everyone. So yes, I'm going to log out now. So thank you very much for joining. And please join Micah every Sunday on Zoom. If you've not subscribed, please join the subscription list. We have Clubhouse on Saturdays, not every Saturday, but most Saturdays. It's also a space where we can discuss about things that affect the Islamic community here in Nigeria and outside Nigeria as well. So do join Micah, become a member, put in your skills. If you donate to Micah. This is a not-for-profit organization, religious organization. So thank you all for joining us today. Bye.